Mike Nichols, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Look, Andy, yeah, go on. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'm really good. I'm really good, and it's good to have you back on here. And if we figured because we talk numerous times a week, don't we, to catch
Yeah.
up? And we something came to us about what 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we said let's do another episode because I've got some of the results back to you of the viewership, and I
Okay.
think I've worked out like on YouTube it says we've got something like 12 watch hours more than any other video. So maybe it's a bit of an insult to me. I don't know. Maybe it's you people keep coming back for.
Look, you know, going in the right direction.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. So it was probably time that we got each other back because I think people like to listen, sorry, to two people conversing.
Conversation.
Yeah, not one person going on about neuroscience based leadership concepts all the time.
Stats don't lie.
Stats don't lie, but I'm enjoying it. So I'm learning
Good.
more as I talk about it anyway. So I'm going to continue because I'm nearly finished the neuroscience series. And I think the next series on nurturing leadership, I think it's quite personal to me because I'm going to go through, obviously, from Instagram, I did a victim series about the psychological effects of, workplace, not just bullying, but workplace negative dynamics of team environments and leadership and stuff like that. So we're going to go through all the psychological effects of stress and depression and things like that. Yeah. I mean, people can look on Instagram page and see all of those ones that we're going to go through in order. But I'm looking forward to that series. And maybe really it would be better to. And it's just come to me now to actually have somebody on to talk about those individual effects. That might be more interesting, maybe.
Yeah, just break it down into smaller chunks. I think, yeah, you're right. It might make it more interesting.
Yeah,
To
because I
listen.
was going to spend a week on each and maybe have a guest appear on, whether it's you or somebody else that might have been affected in those. Maybe this is a call out to anyone who wants to come onto the show and talk about depression in the workplace or stress in the workplace or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good one, actually.
Good idea.
Yeah. Pretty happy with that idea. But yes, so stats don't lie. That's why we're doing it together. And how's everything been since? Well, tell everybody how have you been since we last did an episode together.
When did we last speak? Was it 3-4 weeks ago when we did our first podcast? So,
No, way longer than that.
Was it? Oh wow, time flies. Yeah, I mean, we've been working on our own individual projects. And what's fascinating to me is the book was kind of the launch pad for our ideas and our paths, I guess. And it's interesting that you've gone down the podcast route. You're finding your way. You're leading your own way in that respect, whereas I'm going down the kind of coaching route, which is a different route, I guess.
Yeah.
And as we go through our own journeys, we're learning, we're making connections, we're making mistakes, we're realigning ourselves. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, because this morning I had a revelation.
Oh, tell me more.
And so, where do I start? So, a few months ago, I hired a mentor. The reason I hired a mentor kind of tied in with the book Leading How to Lead with Purpose, we started a thought process. So I hired a mentor to help me figure out my why and where I'm going. So what I've done, which is primarily high level athlete, high level coach, director of a sports team. Sports has been part of my life for ages. And then coaching, I've helped professional athletes overcome their challenges. So in a nutshell, that was it. And then I thought about expanding that service to helping CEOs and directors, because again, going back to the leadership book and my day job and your day job, the leaders and the CEOs are responsible for the culture and environment. So I thought, well, if I can take everything I've learned from sport, put it in that environment, then people can benefit. Okay. So my mentor, I had a chat with him on Thursday, And I was telling him my thoughts and ideas. And he said, Mike, I've got an analogy for you. You're like a ship. So you've just left the port and you've got all this wind coming in from all different directions.
Mm-hmm.
The wind's taking you in different directions. You've not got a path. And from what I can hear, from what you're telling me, is you're trying different things, but you need one direction. So I thought, you know what, you're right. So I carried on talking, and he said, Mike, focus on what you're passionate about. Focus on what you're telling me. I said, tell me. He said, it's clear that you want to work with athletes and you set up meetings with an organisation who helps retired athletes go down that route. I was like, that makes sense. So I've connected with an organisation called Life After Professional Sports. So I'm going down on the 20th of March for this open day where I'll meet some of the staff and some of the athletes and get an idea on how that works. So, you know, I think it's Simon Sinek talks about our why do we do it? What's our purpose?
Right.
My revelation this morning was this. I'm still on that journey trying to figure out I've got a direction now. It's helping retired or retiring athletes understand themselves, find their purpose, and offer a training program for them so they can become coaches who can then help athletes. Now, I know there's a need for this because I'm having conversations with athletes, current athletes in sports, saying, I'm still struggling. This isn't right, that isn't right. So there's a need for that service. So the revelation was, well, going back to my why, I've told you before, I'm adopted. I got adopted when I was 6 weeks old. Now, I've connected with my real one, but my dad, I know nothing about him, apart from the fact he's called Red. So a few months ago, I did a DNA test.
What?
On the DNA test, it showed up that I'm 50% Chinese. Now, over the years, I've had this interest in Zen, so mindfulness and energy and the flow of energy, that kind of thing. So on Ancestry.com, it tells you the areas where your DNA comes from. And there's 3 areas in China that my ancestors come from, like my dad. And when I Googled those areas and Googled the kind of religions that exist over there, it's Buddhism, which is related to Zen.
Mm-hmm.
So then, that's the connection. But then how does that impact what I do? So again, Zen is all about chi or energy, and we all have energy, and that energy is demonstrated through our behaviors, our thoughts, and what we say. So that energy can be misaligned, it can be imbalanced. So my coaching helps someone find their balance through using the principles of chi and the cognitive clarity coaching principles, which include deletions, distortions, generalizations, reframing, and Socratic questioning. So I finally connected with my why, because it's my kind of birth heritage, I guess.
Mm.
And that's started. So everything now I can look back on and say, oh, there's the connection, there's the connection, there's the connection. So I feel more connected to the person, to my why, which gives my service more power, more meaning into wanting to help people, wanting to help myself. So that is my offer, which is something that I've been trying to strive for months. You know, it's something I'm creating around my day job that pays the bills. But I was speaking to someone else the other day about our purpose, and we were talking about sometimes we have these ideas, we go off on tangents, and it's known as shiny thing syndrome. So you have an idea, and then you're going somewhere with it, and then you see something else up in, oh, that looks interesting, let's look into this. So that detracts away from your original path you're looking up here. Right. And then sparks another thought of interest. Oh, that looks nice, I'm going to look at that. And then before you know it, you're so far away from your original idea, you're just spinning so many plates, you feel lost, you feel overwhelmed. So now I feel back, focused on my purpose. And again, I'll just reiterate what that is. It's a service where I coach current professional athletes, but also train retiring or retired professional athletes to become coaches to then help athletes. And that this morning, that was just, sorry, it was a,
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could put that into a one-liner for your purpose. Well, you kind of just done that.
mm,
In a way, and I think it's important going off like even what Simon Sinek says. The reason why I came up with I reflected on my purpose, and that's why I did the purpose series before I did the neuroscience series on.
yeah, yeah,
Went through the historical perspective of purpose and the societal aspect of where purpose came from, and anyway. So about a year and a half ago, because of him, I went kind of like, well, what is my purpose in a one line? If somebody asked me that question, it's sharp, quick, and effective. What
yeah,
would my purpose be? And I've kind of laid it into the job man and father. It's kind of, and
right,
I'm by far being the best dad, but to be the dad I always kind of needed and wanted, to be the man I
right,
always needed and wanted, and in terms of like leadership, job, professional life, maybe is to be the leader I always wanted and needed.
yeah.
And I think they're three sharp, simple 4 or 5 words made into a meaningful sentence. So
And it's
yeah, and
interesting you say that that's what you needed, which tells me
mm,
those were missing elements of part of your life earlier then.
for sure, yeah, I think so.
Aye.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, again, going back to the book, being what you went through in the workplace.
mm,
I've opened up a little bit on leading our own way in a little intro video I did the other day about being bullied in the workplace. I don't know if they know what they did, and I know, being told to man up or just not getting along with these people. I'm okay with not getting along with people. It was
yeah,
a lot deeper than that, and many people didn't see it for a very, very long time.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then probably distanced themselves after that because they didn't know how to, how to handle it and how to support me, or even if, I don't know, regret. I don't know.
yeah,
I've learned since people do distance yourself when they don't have an answer, or they distance themselves from. Maybe I've done it subconsciously. I don't know, but I think
yeah,
that's where then the leadership stuff came from for me, because I wanted to make other people. It's like, because you're doing the coaching side, I do want to do that eventually. I've just not got round to creating that pack that I said,
yeah,
the
that's right.
course that we discussed, because of leading our own way and because of the podcast. But if I can create some time in the future to do that, oh my God, yeah, I'd love to do the coaching route, because I'm passionate about coaching like you, but obviously you're way down further the track than I am on that. But I think, yeah, they're the missing elements. Back to your point is, yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
guess so.
that's, again, I think now you've talked about it and now we're kind of discussing our needs. In some way, that's what we all want to experience, like the things that we're missing in our life, but we see the importance and value that has it for ourselves and others, especially our children. You know, it makes us reflect in a way that, okay, I know when I was younger, then I didn't have this. So now I'm going to make sure my child or children have this
Yeah,
because, it's something much needed. It will give them a better life, let's say. So yeah, it's filling those needs that we didn't have to the greater good, I guess. Our families, for
yeah,
those who we care about.
yeah, totally. Okay, so um, going back to you, this is kind of turning into a bit of a leading our own way episode, I suppose, as
Yeah.
well. But okay, so with you then, did you not know you were adopted?
Yeah, I always knew I was adopted. So my mum that I live with, from when I can remember, my first memory is she told me you're adopted and it means this. And
Right. How
my
old was that?
uh, young teenagers, I think, 10, 11, 12 maybe.
Mm,
I guess she made the judgment, when Michael can understand this kind of thing, then I'll tell him, and remember. And I remember she said, and here are the letters from your mum. So she was corresponding with my mum, because at the time, and this is what my mum told me, at the time she was married, my mum was married to someone, and they were going through the adoption process to get me. Unfortunately, he died halfway through the process. So the adopting agency, well, look, we're a bit concerned because now you're a single mum. But if you can prove to us you've got a good support network, we'll continue with that adoption process. And luckily, my mum has a good support network around her, so we went through the process. And she adopted me. And then she met someone who's now my dad.
How long had you been with her? So, okay, let's go further back though. Hold on.
I'm 6 weeks old.
Right, yeah. So you were born 6 weeks old, passed over to your mum, your adopted mum.
Yes.
Right. And how old were you when the person she was with died? So your first, essentially, I suppose, dad, in a way, right? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Weirdly. Got a picture.
Oh, share it. For those who can see it on Spotify and YouTube, let's share it. Be careful of the reflection.
Yeah, that is me. And that's my mum's first husband who died. So he did know me.
Yeah.
I'd say not too long after this. I'm sure if I spoke to tell me more details. But yeah, so I
Do you know he passed away?
I don't remember him at all. However, his brother is still in my life. He's my uncle, I guess, is his brother. Yeah, and so his sister is my auntie, and I've got cousins from this side as well. So it's that was the early days.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that, mate. I really didn't know that.
Yeah. There's not something I'm really kind of saying, oh, I'm adopted, you know, it's not a big deal.
No, of course.
That thing's not, I think it's an interesting story. And the reason why, I'll tell you what happened, a bit controversial. So my mum was 19, and from what I remember, she had a one-night stand with this guy, and here I am. And at the time, my mum lived in a small terraced house with, I think, 7 siblings. There's like 8 of them in this house. And she didn't want anyone to know that she was pregnant, so she hid the pregnancy. Back then in the early 70s, you know, it was frowned upon that a young 19-year-old would get pregnant after a one-night stand. I mean, even in the day and age, you know, it's frowned upon, I guess. So she didn't even tell her sisters. And she just adopted me out, so no one knew. But when I got in touch with her, probably maybe 10 years ago now, and weirdly, she was still at the same house. So I got in touch with her because on the letters it had her address, you know, handwritten letters. And I just wrote a letter to that address saying, if this date of birth means anything to you, please get in touch. I got a letter back saying, yes, it does. I've thought about you every day since I adopted you out. It filled me up. And I had so many questions, and you know, I was telling her I was in blah blah blah, and she said, now I can finally tell my sisters. And when she told me, like, you must have been carrying that burden around with you for so long, and now just by us being in touch, that's giving you permission to tell your sisters. Well, that must have been awful for a young female to firstly give up her son and then to keep that secret for so long. Crazy. So
hold on then. How old were you when you made contact?
About 10
for
years.
The first time.
Yeah, about 10 years.
So since I moved here to Australia, from Manchester to Australia, it's been since then. So when we were kind of working together at the Basketball World Cup, you did not know who your mother was?
Probably not at that time, no.
Wow, I never knew that, mate. So, oh crap, this has turned into a real interesting leading our own way episode and / nurturing.
I got to, gone off on a tangent.
I didn't expect it today, guys. Shit.
I got to the point, whether that was age or whatever it was, I just had an urge to get in touch with my parents to find out where I came from. Because I'd always known I was adopted and I was fine with it. And I can't really compare it. I compare how I was feeling with someone who hasn't been adopted because I've never felt that. I just knew something was missing and I need to find that gap in the jigsaw puzzle, let's say.
Yeah, there's a hole for sure.
So I spoke to my mum and said, look, I've had this idea, can I get in touch? And said, oh, got some letters here. Right. Maybe I knew the letters were there anyway, but I just never remembered anything. I can't remember, it's all a bit of a blur now. But anyway, yeah, it led to me trying to find my mum. So because before I knew where she lived, I went to Relate because they're the organisation who help people find, their adopted parents and help with relationships. And they suggested I go to the library and find out, deaths and marriages of her name. I won't say her name. So I spent a few weeks looking at this. I think I found like a list of 12 people. And then I saw the address on the letter. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to write the letter to this address, see if she's there. And then we're going back, 40 odd years. Surely she won't still be there, but she was.
She stayed there for you, Mike.
Well, who knows? So we had a good exchange of letters, handwritten letters. All my questions were answered, and she was telling me about her life. Got 2 half brothers as well that I've got some pictures and I can see the similarities. But then, unfortunately, I don't know, life, things didn't feel right for me, and maybe things did go right for her, and that just faded away. So I've not really communicated with her for maybe 7 years, maybe 8 years, but I'm okay with that.
That's what I was gonna.
She's got kind of closure as well.
That's where I was gonna go to next. I was hoping, and I'm sure people who are listening were kind of hoping that you met up with her, but you've answered it.
Yeah, unfortunately not. No, and that's how life is sometimes. The fairy tale ending, so to speak, didn't happen.
Do you want to?
No. No.
You don't want to see her?
No. We.
Why?
I'm happy with life. I've got a mum. You have to kind of find some kind of justification in your decisions, and
Of course,
life is about happiness. And for me, I did what I needed to do at that moment in time. I followed that journey for as long as I needed to follow that journey. And that journey ended. And then we
got the answers you needed.
Exactly, yes. We move on to our next journeys. Now, the only kind of gap, going back to my original revelation, was my dad. I know the area of China where he was from. I understand the religion that was there, and that my interest in Zen and kind of, energy and chi, that's the connection. So I've kind of I'll never meet him. All I know is called Rene. So I have to embrace that discovery, let's say, of where he was from and how that connects with my interest in Zen and how I use the principles of Zen and Chi to my coaching practices. It all kind of fits in. It kind of makes sense.
That makes perfect, I suppose, genetic sense of your origin. I feel like we're going off the subject real quick. I've got questions.
Go on.
A lot of them.
I've
got a lot of them, and I need to order them in mind because I didn't expect this. I did not expect this in the slightest. Hold on. Let me give them my thoughts. This is putting my hosting skills into practice now, I suppose.
Cool.
Okay. Because normally I have a pre-interview. I wish we'd done a pre-interview.
We talked about it, but you said, don't tell me anything. Okay.
No.
Really flow.
No, it's fascinating.
Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I love it. No, I absolutely love it.
While you're thinking of a question, let me just share this with anyone who's listening or watching.
Yeah, go on.
We all have our own journeys, and sometimes we have gaps in those journeys, and it's up to us as individuals to take the right actions to kind of fill those gaps. And sometimes that involves reaching out to someone to help you, as I did with a mentor. Sometimes, for me, I did a DNA test, and that opened up some new ideas for me. But you have to remember, at the end of the day, it's about your happiness and what you bring to the world. if you can figure out how to find happiness and how you can bring something positive to the world, then you are on the right path. But I think for me, for my journey, that's where I am. That's my focus, and it's great to give back and it's great to share knowledge, but it's also great to understand what drives my happiness. And like Andy has, a young family. I've got a young family, and that's kind of bedrock really on which everything else sits.
Mm.
The discovery of my adoption and everything else adds to the person who I am today, and we've all got our different stories. What I suggest is embrace yourself as a person and just go with it. Be happy.
Yeah, I think, and I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and I'm forgetting who the neuroscientist was, but I know she was talking to, I think she was talking to the author of The Source, Dr. Tara, who have messaged a few times. It's my mission to get her on Leading Our Own Way. It is my mission. She knows it too. She kind of ignored me, and I was like, I was just making a joke, because we're talking about manifestation and visual boards. And I said, she's on my visual board. I tried to make a connection with her about that. And I'm sure she found it funny. Maybe she didn't, but I messaged her back going, I was just a joke, but I am seeking her to get on the show one day. That is my goal. However, the person was talking about happiness, and there's three, I'm sure it was her talking to her. I'm questioning myself now because I think it was actually a male. However, they were saying 3 factors make up happiness. So happy isn't like a survival emotion. It's not part of the survival emotions. The positive end of the spectrum would be, like love, joy, excitement, and trust. But happy isn't a part of that. But the 3 factors that help make up the state of happiness, what you go through as happiness, would be having purpose, having satisfaction and enjoyment. And I think that what you've said is kind of concrete towards that point of happiness, because I can't imagine your situation. And when you tell me you're okay with not seeing it, in my mind, my naivety, I'm like, no, I've got, this is just my energy and my personality,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I've got to see it. Got to. Like, because I didn't meet my dad till I was 8, but I met him. So that's been answered. And, we have a relationship now. But, I think that gap is definitely there for me. So if I'd never still not met him, I can't imagine not wanting to know who he was. So I struggle with that. But you've just filled in the holes for me, because you've seemed to have those 3 factors: satisfaction, because you got the answers. The question answered through your letters, and you've got your purpose kind of more filled in now with what we've been talking about with the journey that you've been on alongside me, but separate as well. And I suppose the next one I probably need questioning on is enjoyment. Do you have enjoyment in everything you are doing at the moment?
Not everything brings joy. There are some things on my day job, so that's recently changed. I went for an interview for something with the same company. There was a couple of things I had to address, which were addressed on Thursday. So that was 2 days ago. Looking up a new role in a couple of weeks, I think. Now that change is going to be a challenge for different reasons, but challenges for the right reasons. It'll allow me to use the leadership qualities I have to create positive change, and that's how I'm looking at that. The goal is to transition out of a traditional 9-to-5 role, so I can spend more energy doing the things that I know can affect more people in a more positive way, which is the coaching. Leading our own way, I am leading by making the decisions myself that are taking me in that direction.
But even the journey, that process will bring you those 3 factors though, right?
Yes, it has to. You have to strive for kind of enjoyment and satisfaction. In your day role, if you're a person in a day job and every day is a chore and you just tolerate everything, find something in that role that gives you joy. Now, that might involve kind of reframing your thinking around how you approach that role or how you deal with different circumstances. And if it's really a role that you cannot find that joy or satisfaction in, leave. the job because it's not worth it in the long run of things, grand scheme of things. I know, and you know, it affects you as a person when you're in those roles that just are giving you that satisfaction and joy. And we have to lead our own way by making sometimes tough decisions to move up the environment to find joy and satisfaction. So yeah, definitely.
So with your mum, when you found out at 10, 11, was there any moment in that young teenage years going into early adulthood, times that you wanted to ask your mum questions? Like the mum that brought you up, did you ask her questions? Did you, because you said you didn't read the letters till you in your 40s. So she never gave them to you before that.
Well, now I'm talking, I think. So I've got a little vision in my head where we're at our old house, and I must have been, because we just moved in, so I must have been 11 or 12. And I remember we were talking, and she gave me this kind of leather binded, I don't know what to describe it, leather bound little case, all these letters in. And I think she said, these are letters from your mum. I just want you to know that you adopted it, and this is it. Right, okay, right. Maybe I read them then. Or I didn't. I was, younger. Maybe I didn't know then. Maybe I didn't appreciate what she was trying to tell me. But my life growing up has been great. They brought me up in the right way. So, going back to your question, what was your question? I've forgotten. I've just got.
Did you ever ask further questions to your, I want to say real mum who brought you up, because for me it's not so much about the blood, it's about the role of the person. So your real mum.
Not at that time, because I was happy with my mum.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Didn't have a need to ask any questions, but it was only when I got to the age of like 40 or so, I thought, right, let's go back to this. Let's find out what this adoption was and why and how, and what's going on. What was it all about?
Yeah.
How did we end up here? What was the process? So yeah, all these questions kind of went through my head, and every question I had, I found the answer to.
Okay, good. So in your early adulthood, did you ever feel there was a hole in your life, or did you now you're mature and you can self-reflect at a much deeper level than you can in your 20s and your 30s? Can you look back and go, now I know why I did that. Now I know why I thought that. That's why I didn't do any of that. Why I didn't achieve this, or you know what I mean?
Right. No, I never used adoption as a way to justify failure or justify, good not having. I never looked at it like that.
Yeah.
I just knew it was something that happened. That it was neither good nor bad. It just was.
Yeah.
And I think if we're again talking about Zen and Chi and balance, it's the acceptance of things as they are. And I think I've come to learn and to appreciate over time. It's something that just are, and that's how you accept it, and that's how you look at it. There's
that bit I completely relate to, because when I've mentioned when people talk about mums and dads, and I said, and in the moment, even as a young adult, even as a teenager, I remember people going, "Oh, so your mum, you didn't grow up with a dad? What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't know any different. So it's actually okay."
Yeah.
I was okay with it because I didn't know. I really didn't know, and I was okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember meeting my dad for the first time in a car park at a leisure centre, and again, I don't even remember it being weird when I did it. But when I think about the topic of it, it is weird. You meet your dad in a car park. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. But I just try and remember thinking about it, when the feelings, and sometimes they flow back to me. It's weird.
It's weird, and I think I didn't really know anyone else who was adopted when I was younger. But then,
Yeah, no, me either.
through the basketball community, and you'll know this guy. I think, and he's quite reserved as I am as well. So we didn't really talk, but we formed this friendship. And when we were, I'm going to say 16, So I played for Bolton and he played for Manchester. I think it was Manchester United, and it's Del Herman.
Oh yeah, I remember Dahlia.
And he joined us to play in a junior tournament down in Solent. It was the Solent Festival. And he joined us that team, and he was staying at my house for the evening before we went down. I think we got talking about, life, and we got talking about adoption, and he said, "Oh, I'm adopted as well." So then he went on his own journey. So yeah, I think he was the first person I knew who was adopted. Yeah, we've talked about it briefly. We don't really talk much these days, but I still see him on, Facebook. So yeah, it's finding someone who was adopted and sharing those thoughts, was nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just different. Being adopted is what it is. Like you for life, don't we? Regardless of what that looks like.
Yeah, you kind of accept your childhood for what it was. Like, I've met people even on Leading Our Own Way who have been through things in childhood, and they talk about, like, well, that was normal. We didn't question it at the time, whether their parents were alcoholics or drug related, or which have, people you're going to come across the guest when you watch it, and they talk about it, and it was just normal. It's when they get older, and that's why I ask those questions, because when they get older, they're self-reflective, and what you mentioned before, they don't want that for their own kids. They look back and they have some of the holes filled in, some of the questions that they filled in, because they take their minds back to whether it's psychology or therapy, and the people speak to them about, well, let's reach into your childhood. And I think there's a little bit of why I do the structure of Leading Our Own Way, when we go back, paint the picture of the present moment, and let's go back in time to where it kind of began, the journey began. I think it's not that I'm a therapist, by the way, because I'm far from it, but I think that's why it's interesting, because I think it does fill in the gaps for the audience, the people to listen to these and take, whether it's personal development strategies or if it's little tips, and go, well, because there's no scenarios exactly the same, but even if you can relate to it, it's interesting to, if I've got two guests who are very similar, which hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure I'll get guests that have got very similar stories to a previous guest, but people can go, oh, that's how that person did it, but that's how that person did it, and that's, every scenario is completely different anyway, but every person and every brain and every body and soul is completely different, and they'll all, because we all see the world in a different way, even though we're looking at the same thing, we all see it in a different way, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So paint a picture for us all then. What did you do leaving high school then?
In terms of what?
Just life, basketball, job, whatever.
High school. Okay, so here's a story. I'm laughing because I'm ashamed of what happened here. Oh. So I'm not the best at education. Okay, I'll admit that. Yeah. But my best friend, we played on the same basketball team at Tannis Lane in Bolton. He got into the sixth form. That was his plan to do A-levels. And I needed 4 GCSEs, at least grade C, to get into the sixth form. Anyway, I got those. Like, yes, we're going to play on the same team again for another 2 years. And then I remember going into a lesson, I think it was communication studies. And I sat there and the teacher's talking out line. Just don't get it, just don't understand.
How many people like that?
And whether I panicked or whether, I don't know, I just like, I don't like this. I went to see the head and I said, struggling. He said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I've got a couple of friends who are down at the college doing leisure studies. I had an interest in leisure. Can I see if there's any spaces on that course? And he said, yeah, go down, come back, let me know. Anyway, I went down to Bolton College, talked to the tutor. He says, yeah, got a space, do what you need to do. So I went back to school. Told head teacher I'm leaving, spoke to my mum that evening and my dad. I said, yeah, if that works for you, go for it. So I left Cannon-Slade sixth form and went down to Bolton College for 2 years and did leisure studies. Now, the lesson there is, for anyone, is it's okay to do things, and if it's not working for you, make a change. We're not designed to do the right thing all the time. You know, go back to leading our own way. I don't want people to be stuck in decisions they made just to save face. It's not worth it. So looking back in hindsight, I made that decision. It was right for me because I just struggled. Like I said, I'm not that academically brilliant, but the leisure studies at Bolton College worked for me. So did the 2 years at Bolton College doing the leisure studies. And at the time, during that time, I was playing for England under 19s. We had a tournament in Holland, and the local paper did an article on me. And I was thinking, well, everyone seems to be going to university, so maybe I should look at that. And I went to Liverpool University. Can't remember which one, I think there's two. And I went to the open day, talked a little bit about basketball. Well, I got a place, they offered me a place doing sports science. And again, I looked at it and had a conversation. It just didn't feel right for me at that time. So I turned it down. And I guess that always stuck with me, turning down to do a university degree. And I started working in sport shops. But basketball, I was still able to play basketball. And at that time, naively, thought I could make a career out of basketball. This was back in the early 90s. So I was playing for a team called the Bury Lobos, which changed their Spirit One as we played in National League Division 1. There was 96, I got voted an all-star. I was a very good player, not making any money really. But I always put basketball in front of like jobs and careers. So
Did you regret turning down the degree?
Well, years later, I ended up enrolling at Bolton University to do a degree in sports development. So as a mature student, I gave up a job, worked out all the finances, and was able to study full-time.
What year was that?
Development. So that was 2009 to 2012. So that 2012 was the year that I'd volunteered at the Olympics, which was 2 years training as well. So while at university, I was kind of trained to be an Olympic volunteer as well.
I remember when you did that.
Yeah, so
that's the year I left from here.
Finally revisited the education and got my degree. In fact,
Here it is, everybody.
So
Very cool. So, in terms of basketball, then, did you never have the idea or the opportunity to go to America to study and play basketball at the same time, like many others?
I did.
That we know.
Yeah, so when I started playing for England, it was 1991. There were talks about, I think it was like the Junior Olympics or some of the international tournament. But at that time, at the same time, I'd booked on a basketball camp at Holy Cross, Massachusetts. So there was a clash, and I couldn't go to the England tournament. I couldn't represent England. So I went to the States with the idea, again, maybe naively, that I'd go to this basketball camp and they'd offer me a scholarship. Anyway, went to the camp, met a great group of guys, and some of the coaches were going, and there was a coach from London. I can't remember his name, but me and him would stay when all the campers had kind of gone to bed, and we'd just stay in the gym, and he'd kind of coach me and like really push me, and I really appreciated that. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I made the all-star team, and I didn't play that well in the game, and then I had a chat with was it the camp director or the head of sports, and I think he offered me a part scholarship. So I went back home, told my parents, and I was 17. I didn't have any experience in how you're supposed to hold these conversations and what you're supposed to say and what a scholarship looks like. Very naive. So I just went back to my head. Yeah, they offered me a scholarship, but it means you still need to pay this much. I think my mum said, no, we can't afford that. So that was kind of the end of my American dream, so to speak. It just didn't work out. So I came back. So again, I was like 17. So I just worked my way up into the National League Berry basketball team. Like I said, made an All-Star in 96. And then the team folded in 97. And then I tried to play locally. And you know, the 90s was the kind of golden era of British basketball. We had the Manchester Giants playing out of the 9X Arena. Other teams playing out of arenas. There was a lot of money there, but with that attracting, you know, the Americans. Were guys like Tony Holly on our team, who went on to play for the Thames Valley. It was a great. I learned a lot about basketball. It was, you know, because I loved the game. It was a passion of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
And that's how we met, through basketball. Yeah, so there you go. So many benefits from basketball and team sports.
Don't forget Nick Nurse, who won an NBA championship, and
That's right.
Nick Nurse was at the Giants, 98, 2000, and he's won an NBA championship as a rookie head coach with Toronto Raptors.
Right,
and then and now you've got the old Sheffield Sharks coach, Chris Finch. Of the Wolves, Timberwolves, and they're top of the West at the moment. So you never know.
Yeah.
We might have another ex-England. I know they're both American, but they coached in the BBL. I remember it being at the National Trophy final. I used to work with a company called Hoop Stuff selling all the gear. That's how I was able to go to the All-Star game in 2004. I worked for Paul, a guy called Paul who owned Hoop Stuff. He took me to the All-Star game in LA 2004. That's how I got there. Anyway, I went to the toilet at the national finals. Random story, but Chris Finch walked past me and pees in the urinal next to me.
That claims to fame? Oh no.
Well, every time I'm watching it with my son, I'm going, he peed next to me.
Yeah.
That's a true story. Chris Finch peed next to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to the toilet and this guy was looking at me really weird.
Nate's Chris Finch. Like, he's in the NBA now.
Yeah.
Just happy you weed next to me. So,
I mean,
yeah.
a few years ago, I was the assistant coach of the Manchester Giants as well, so that's another weird connection. And that came about because I've known Jeff Jones, who was the coach at the time, and he's kind of coached me at camps on and off since I was the age of 13. And I remember the first camp I went to actually with Jeff Jones, I was a camper, and there was another guy on the camp as a camper. And Jeff said to me, Mike, take this kid. He's got this hunger, he's got this eagerness, just show him a few things. I went, yeah, okay, no worries. I think I was maybe 13, 14 at the time. Anyway, take this kid, I could see like eager to do things or learn. Anyway, it was Yorick Williams.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, I remember this kid, he's just absorbing everything. And I thought, he's a different animal, this guy. Anyway, years down the line, and you know, if you followed Yorick's career, he did really well. And I'm not claiming anything. You know,
You are.
Nothing to do with me whatsoever. But he had a really good career. So anyway, going back to the Giants, Jeff Jones, I thought I could bring something to him because to me, Jeff always looked stressed and anxious. And for me, I was thinking, you're not enjoying this. You know, it's great to play balls and you know, the successes he's had as a coach. And I knew him on some level, and I wanted to bring something positive to him. So I messaged him, I think it was in the off season, Jeff, I was just wondering, can I be your assistant coach? And he said, oh, Mike, I can't say anything right now, but there's going to be a change. Okay. And at the time, I knew the owner as well. So they kind of knew me and they knew what I was about. And they had to have conversations about bringing me in. Anyway, it was announced later, the new coach is going to be Yorick Williams. And of course, I've known Yorick. So me and Yorick had a chat, and I I presented it to him as I'm your yang to your yin, your yin and yang. And again, that comes back to Zen, the balance of the two opposing forces where he's quite, passionate and energetic, whereas I'm more calm. So I thought we worked really well together. So I was the assistant to Yorick back then, and being in that environment really opened my eyes to how things were. And I'm going to leave it as that. It just opened my eyes to how things were. And I stayed there for maybe 4 months. I learned a lot in those 4 months.
Learn what?
A lot, yeah.
Learn how to do things or how not to do things?
Both. Yeah, my expectations how things should have been weren't aligned with what was actually happening. And if I had to look at it from their perspective, they were on a budget. And there were other things that I believed could have happened that didn't. And my way of dealing with things was different as well, just because of the training I'd had and perspectives that among different coaching style. Learning curve for sure. Anyway, that was my connection with the Giants. But I still got kind of connection with them a little bit. So one of the things, so if you follow the Manchester Giants, they've been through a transitional phase over the last few years. And I went to speak with Vince, who was brought in by the current owner, and suggesting that, I help him in some way. Anyway, Vince wasn't there long, so that kind of dissipated. Yeah. And I think what it's made me realise is I could feel myself going off on a tangent, so I'm going to stop myself right there. Because it's not relevant to this. Let us bring ourselves back to leading our own way, and that's part of my journey. With the Giants and basketball, there's always lessons there, and you can take little parts of that and insert it into your own personality, into your own kind of coaching methods and how you present yourself and how you look at the world. So I look at those days as very positive, and I kind of use those to help me for my offer, which I offer now, on how to do things, how to present things, what not to do, all with the purpose to bring enjoyment into myself, but also to help other people who have that need or desire to move from point A to point B.
Yeah, I think you're very similar in when it comes to leadership, in the sense of having that human side. And I think what we brought us into the book with, again, Michael and Phil. And people might wonder why these books. This is not purely just because of the love of the game of basketball, but the elements that those people bring. Probably more Phil. He brings in that philosophy from it's Buddhism
Zen,
that he brings into and that human side. And I bring my coaching aspects and what my coaches kind of brought to me in my game, because I don't think I went as far as I think it was my confidence that probably affected me, because I don't think people fully understood me as a person. And I think but back then it was this the hard way, whereas it wasn't that human side, that wasn't that feel of the game. And that's the line I always say when it comes to leadership. I think people, I am going to ask you a question about theories in a minute, but we touch base on how to lead with purpose. I call it the feel of the game. I bring my refereeing into it as well. I know there's rules. I know there's black and white rules. And we've probably, again, if you're watching basketball now and even football, there's no feel of the game anymore. There's no advantage. You're not allowed to blow advantages anymore. It is, that's a foul. Forget the 2 points they're about to score. You have to blow a foul, black and white rules. I like to go with the feel of the game. And I know there's grey areas within the feel of the game, but I think if you set it a very, very clear boundary still, and everyone, and treat everybody not different, you have to have an overall blanket, of course, of what you can and can't do. But I think it just brings in what Simon brings in, Simon Sinek, is perspective, right? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think you mentioned feel of the game there. So
Yeah. I call it the feel of the game. And you can do that in any part of your life, not just leadership, not just work, not just teaching, but even in your own aspects of your life, feel of the game. You might not allow your child to do something, but in a certain circumstance, on another day, you might not allow them to do it, but on a certain day, you might.
Talking about children, I'm going to stop you there. Come here.
Yeah.
Come here. This is Theo. I'm just hovering there, opening and closing the door, distracting you. Hi, this is Andy. Have you seen Andy before? No. So he's got a football game this morning.
I like it.
So you need to get ready. 70. He's a goalkeeper today.
Oh, nice.
Ready.
Nice.
Good job. Shut it up, please. Hi.
I won't keep your dad too much longer. That's cute.
Yeah, he was just there. Let's introduce him. Let's get it out.
Yeah. Again, feel of the game, right?
Yeah. There's things you have to address, and I think, with the feel of the game, some people feel it, some people see it, some people hear it. I think for me and you, it's the feel of the game. You understand where that energy's going. Is there a player that you feel is missing out? Is there a player that you feel could be doing better? When you get that feel for the game, you know what to adjust to kind of that balance, bring everything back in alignment. You agree that deal as well?
Do you think theories then, when it comes to whether it is leadership, do you think theories cater for all the different personalities that the person who's needing to read these theories, the leader, the boss, whoever you want to call them, do you think because everywhere I work, they go, this is the theory we follow, these are the goals that we follow, this is how it is. But when you go into a workplace, those personalities do not fall into those theories or those categories at all. But because the leader believes in that theory, that's just how it is. And for me, that's where theories fall apart. And it's always been stuck with me in my own heart. And now I'm doing what I'm doing. I just can't get away from it. This is just what I feel and believe.
If you're in a culture, if you're in a good, positive culture, a culture that's working, okay, you feel that culture, okay, regardless theories and the policies or whatever, you get a feeling it's working well. On the flip, when a culture feels awful. You just know it, regardless of the policies and the theories. Theories are ideas that someone's had and said, "Oh, let's explore this a little bit more. Let's see how this fits into what we're trying to deliver." Okay. And the obvious theory is the theory of relativity, which Einstein. So he looked into that. It was a theory, it was an idea. He looked into it. It is a thing. But when you talk about leadership theories, and leadership styles, the whole purpose of looking at those as an individual is to find a style that works for you. Now, not all styles fit in the right hole, so it's sometimes it's like putting
twisting it
into a round hole. So personally, for me, my style, and the same goes for you, is that nurturing style, and that comes from the things I've learned, the training, my idea on how people should be treated, and that style is born from wanting others to be better. So I've read about your democratic styles, your autocratic styles. I did it in my sports development course. I was learning about styles, more for coaching. There's different coaching styles. So for me, I can look at theories, I can look at strategies, I look at styles, and I pick out the bits that work for me. So it's not one theory fits all, one style fits all. You have to find bits that work for you and help you present yourself in a way that you are joyous in that, and it's satisfaction for you. That's kind of the golden nugget. Don't have a closed mindset of focusing on the theory and trying to force it to work, because if you're trying to force it to work, then it's not right. Uh, explore what's out there, pick the bits that are right for you. Yes, to people who are exploring leadership, whether they're in leadership now or they're thinking of getting into leadership, find a way that works for you. Now, finding a way that works for you also has to incorporate what works for the people you are leading. You are their leader to serve. You are there to facilitate. You are there to get the best out of others. So what theories, what styles, what policies can help you achieve that? And when you do that, a winning culture, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Again, it goes back to that quote. Simon says, "You're not in charge of people. You take care of the people that are in your charge."
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like what Simon said. I made a joke on a previous episode. I probably should have quoted that properly, wrote it down, but it's to that effect. You're not in charge. You got to look after those people that are in your charge. If that makes sense. I think it makes sense. I think I got it right. Again, I'm gonna have to put it on a poster on my wall and just keep it there so I can refer to it
in the comments after.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll do. And I'll tag Simon in it. And again, another guy that I'd love to get on nurturing leadership and leading our own way, because he's another person that left his business self-employed and went on this journey and then became a guru speaking on TED Talks. And now he's got tens of millions of followers. So certainly a guy to look up to in this. And I just align with him completely. But then bringing all that neuroscience into it, and if people can understand that brain cellular level of why people react in certain ways, can understand the hormones and all of that type of thing, if we can bring all of that into leadership, boom, we nail it. You'd be nailing it, absolutely nailing it. If you can't lead yourself, how can you lead others?
Exactly. And I think, talking about joy and satisfaction, it's finding it in yourself first before you begin to share things, I guess.
Because that's why module 1 of the Nurturing Leadership program, that I will, if, the others don't go off in the direction I'd like them to, the first module will all be about the self, but I can only write the self if I'm reading these type of texts, literature. And that's why I'm doing all the sleep, the brain, because I think if we can understand the self, live it, talk about it, meet people like yourself, talk about it, and get people on here, learn from them, I can actually make a much deeper quality program and then go and serve, whether it's education, whether it's health, whether it's sports, whether it's whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'm just passionate about people. Again, bringing back my purpose into it from my experiences of 9 years ago. I want people to go to work happy.
That's it.
Inspire the people that you're supposed to inspire. You can't please everybody, but you can still try. You can still try. I know it makes your job a little bit harder, but if you're happy within yourself, you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to go and at least try your hard. And then again, if you can't please everybody, if your purpose is met, your enjoyment is there and satisfaction is, and you're satisfied knowing that you tried that day, but they're still not happy, you can still go home a very happy person. Me, the old Andy, if I wasn't pleasing somebody, probably because there was a hole deep in me, I wasn't happy truly with myself, I would dwell on the fact that I've upset somebody. Now, obviously it's an ongoing journey, but if I've upset somebody, but I know I didn't mean to, and I didn't mean it in that way, and I certainly didn't say any offensive words, I can at least live with myself and go, you know what, they'll just need some time and we'll talk about it. Cool. Not a problem. I'm still not saying I don't care about that person's feeling. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm at ease with myself knowing, well, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't intend to say it like that. I didn't say it like that. They've taken it that way. I can't cater for everybody's way of taking things anymore. That's what ruined me for a very long time.
And the intent that someone comes with and presents is going to be interpreted in a way where that person's head is at. So if the intent behind a message or an instruction or a behavior comes from a good place, but the person who's receiving that isn't balanced, isn't aligned, is going through their own problems, they're going to interpret it in a way that's not in the way that it was intended. So that misunderstanding can then be taught through. And then that's how you overcome those misunderstandings. But again, we've talked about emotional intelligence. It's having that emotional intelligence to understand what you said didn't have the desired impact on that person. Looking at body language, looking at how they behave, how they take that, and then doing something about it. So, but you're right. Yeah, sometimes we can't please everyone, but there's always a reason behind that misunderstanding, whether that's their own perspective. That can only come through conversation.
Absolutely. And I've received things sometimes, and I think I question, well, why have you not gone to get my perspective? You hear things, but you're not going to go into perspective first. That's not okay.
But again, if you send a message and your head's not in the right place, it's going to be a message that isn't aligned with the person receiving it. Because if they know you, they'll be like, well, that's not like such and such a body. Why are they doing it like that? They'll be falling out or something happened. So it's so easy for communication to break down just because of where your head's at or where the other person's head's at.
That's right.
Get clarity.
Perspective, empathy. And then if you've got that empathy, you can hopefully turn it into compassion, where you can hopefully put yourself in a physical act to help that person. Maybe you can't always show compassion because of your own restrictions. Maybe, I don't know, but we can always start with empathy. I feel, sympathy, then empathy, then compassion. But so with you, then very quickly, because I know you've got to go soon. Journey into maybe just the chapter before we started our chapter together. I know it'll be in the book. Your story is in chapter 1, as is mine. But where did that journey then take it? You've worked. You've gone into sport development. You've done your degree. Where then does it go for you then?
Right. So going back to my degree. And this is all very relevant to where I am now. So my intention when I started my degree, because I gave up a full-time job and I had a mortgage, I had to be very careful with my financial planning, and then had a plan. With this degree, I would get X job. So the idea was to get a job in sport development. That was my plan. Anyway, halfway through my course, government decided to put funds to sport development jobs. So me being me, panicked. Let's throw my bloody plans out of order. What am I going to do now? So in like a way to kind of just put that to one side, I went for a walk in the town centre, went to W.H. Smith's, and I was looking at books. I've got an interest in books. And this colourful
It's a shop in England, for those who don't know it, by the way.
Yes, this is a shop in England.
Forget I'm in Australia.
It still exists, yeah. So they sell books. And this colourful book and the title called Just Get On With It just resonated right there. The title, Just Get On With It. Right. Opened it, as you do in bookshops, started reading it. I was like, this is interesting. Bought the book, took it home, read it, absorbed it, read it again, absorbed it. It's like, yes. And then at the back of the book was an email contact. Said, if this book, that's of interest to you, email me, let me know. So I emailed him, not expecting anything back. Anyway, email back, said, thanks for that. By the way, this is what I do. If you're interested, let's have a conversation. Long story short, he ended up being my mentor and trainer, and as did 2 other people who helped train me in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP is the kind of strategies that people like Tony Robbins, the American life coach, uses, Darren Brown uses, for very different reasons. NLP is all about how we look at the mind, how we perceive the world to be, and how we can change our thoughts to create different outcomes for ourselves. I found it fascinating. So I went on this course. I started helping people on the course, which was eye-opening. And then I helped people when I got back so I helped someone give up smoking. I helped a colleague overcome their fear of heights. I helped an actress overcome her fear of forgetting her lines. And then I helped people in basketball.
Mm.
So that was when my interest in helping people using NLP began. So on and off throughout my work was always secondary to me, I think. Work was just a way to earn money to pay the bills and to go on holidays.
Well, that's what we're still doing now, though.
Yeah. So, the transition for me will come at some point.
Same.
Because I feel okay, some momentum. So the NLP aspects kind of brought my attention, and that's what I do, hence the book, because there's NLP strategies in there. And then it all ties in with the Zen. I'm just looking on my board now to remind myself the cognitive clarity coaching elements. So yeah, the leading our own way, the nurturing leadership book, and then my coaching offer have all been born from experiences in my life, and I've just taken them and gone with them because I felt there's some value in there to help other people.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. Well, on that note of your new book, tell everybody about your new book.
My new book. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So how
did you get that? I only got number 1 in 2 categories, but whatever.
How to create a winning sports mind. So this is a book that I've thought about for some time. I just got to the point where I need to share my experiences of working with people, the principles, the program that I use that any athlete, any competitive athlete can take and start to implement straight away, because these are things that I use with athletes who overcome their issues. But I just wanted to get it out there. Because my focus now with helping retired athletes and helping professional athletes, again, it just ties in with that. So yeah, it made it to number 1 in it was sports psychology and sports competition, those 2 niches. Now, just to be clear, this is in the free book list. It's not the paid book list. So the free book list is a list of new books that have come out. And if you think, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of books being released every week. So when you put that into context, for it to reach number 1 in those 2 categories is impressive in itself.
Absolutely.
And
we did it with our book.
Yeah. You're right, it did. And it's just nice to have that kind of recognition that the Leading Our Own Way book and my new book has done, Winning Sports Mind made it to number 1, because that tells me people are looking at it, people are paying attention to it, people are hopefully learning from the experiences that they can find within the book and implementing it through their lives. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That's what the books are about. The leadership book, the sports book is helping other people. And that's what it all comes back to.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Side note, our book is called How to Lead with Purpose, not Leading Our Own Way, by the way.
Yeah. When I said it didn't sound right.
No, I didn't. I knew what you meant. I'm sure everybody knew.
Yeah.
We don't really plug our book as much. Our book is, and even Shut Up, and I'll put your other one in the show notes as well, but our book is in the show notes of everything. I don't think we mentioned it last time, but our book, How to Lead with Purpose, you can see it right here on the shelf behind. There was a book, and I forget the name, the structure of the book. It was about people who were leaving their jobs to really chase their dreams of what they wanted. So I think we followed the same format. He collected stories and then threaded strategies and mindsets into different chapters. And I always remember you saying when we were talking about doing the book, we should follow this structure. It's fascinating and I love it. And this is where let's just dig a little bit deeper on our book before you go. But I'll mention it and then I know you'll expand on it. But I recall you telling me there was a story in there where this guy was like a dustbin man, or you could have just been ad-libbing and shit, trying to give me an idea of what.
I can see it.
Oh, can you see it? Let me finish the story because I always remember it. So I think the guy was like something like a dustbin man or a cafe worker or something, but he got the fear, he quit, and he was like, he just wasn't meeting his purpose. He had no satisfaction. He had no enjoyment for everything he did, but he was very talented, say, movie writer. And then so he left his job to become a script writer, and then his films were made. That might not be real, but that was an example maybe changed. Then that's why we did chapter 1, where we collected stories.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
our book
Yes.
was around, poor leadership / workplace bullying, team dynamics, and so on, but people who suffered from that at a much deeper level. And that's why we followed with chapter 1 being in that structure.
That's right.
That's, I think, the beginning of the origin of the structure of our book, right? Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's right. And so the book is called, I think it's called When to Jump.
When to jump. That's it.
Just
Yes.
give me one sec.
Yeah, When to Jump. What a great name. Because didn't you email him as well
Yes,
about
I,
our book?
I did. Oh, so
Yeah, if
this
you're
is,
looking at the screen, Mike's going to show it to you now. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can look at it. But if not, he's showing a book called When to Jump, and it's the sub is if I'll hold it back, it's gone off now. If the job you have isn't the life you want, it's a must read. It says there. What does it say there? Must read for anyone seeking to not only succeed but thrive. Yes. Yeah.
right. It's written by Mike Lewis. So I contacted Mike Lewis.
Hmm.
We had the idea of the book, and I said to him, I really like your book. I like the format. I've got this idea of writing a book. Would you like to be involved somehow? Anyway, I didn't hear back from him, but I'm going to show you how he's outlined the story. So this book is full of stories. So there's some here. So he gives some names, and then
Yeah.
so to grad school owner to Hollywood screenwriter.
There you go. See, I remember. I was not far off.
Not far off. Mechanical and engineer to fitness entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love it.
Professional to writer. So there's all these stories of people, commercial banker to brewery owner, going from one job into something completely different.
Yeah, and that's why I think you can relate to our chapter 1 content page, because our titles, a leopard can't change its spots, right?
Right.
Tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
Let me do manual labor. You're seriously taking the piss. Capitalism. Oh, I can't even speak. Capitalism isn't humane. And another one. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, catchy titles for each story. And each person experienced their own journey.
Yeah.
But it's a story. There's stories to be told and lessons to be learned within each of those.
I love this one.
That inspires me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I love this one. We support your mental health. No, we don't.
that story is crazy.
Yeah. It's that is why I think people do need to read chapter 1 to get a context of the rest of the book as well, because it is a different type of leadership book. And some people have read it and gone, yeah, you're right, Andy, that was a completely different type of leadership book. But that's what it's about, right? Because they're so used to a generic, and that's the whole point of the book. It's not negative. It's supposed to be positive, but coming from a different angle.
Exactly. We don't talk about theories. We don't talk about strategies. We don't talk about policies. We talk about humans. And that's what stand out. It's what makes a human tick. How can we, as a leader, be the best we can be? How can we influence the people we lead to be the best we can? And that's the book in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anything that we didn't talk about today that you think we probably should have, what do you think it would be?
Well, I think I shared my story, so maybe sharing your story.
Wow.
I'm comfortable to do that. I mean, don't make a decision now. Think about it. Because for me, talking about it and reflecting allows me again to connect with the person I am. I found this podcast really useful personally. Also, I like to people have taken things from it and said, "Oh, that's been really useful. I've enjoyed that." And it helps our listeners, watchers connect with us as well.
Totally, yeah. I did a 20-minute video the other day, and I briefly went into it, a little tiny bit. Again, like me, I could probably go on it for hours. I won't bore people with that lengthy journey. Obviously, the stories are in chapter 1. My story's in chapter 1 about not life, just the scenario that we went through. Same with you, with your title. I'll let people figure out what the title is of that book in chapter 1. I won't give that away. It's like with the rest of the people who are in there. We're not sharing names, are we? It's just all completely confidential. But yeah, no, I mean, you know me, I've been an open book. I think the reason why we did the book and now we're doing the podcast is because I've been such an open book. I do think people, you can, it goes back to men always being shut off. I think I'm far on the opposite side. I'm doing it like this because I don't get the reactions. So it's not that the reactions of other people are negative, but I don't know what it is. It's that feel. Again, I come back to that feel, that intuition, that gut feeling, the second brain. You can see it in their eyes. Here we go again. Right. And I said it in the video the other day, I'm not scared to say it. So people who have been extremely or supposed to be extremely close told me to, man up. Or other people, not maliciously, have said, just, I don't think you got along with these people. Was it just a simple of not get, just, you just clashed? No. 32 years old, I'm okay with not getting along with people. But the level that these people went to destroy my soul on a daily basis, and it came out when you physically put your hands on me. It looks fairly obvious. And then the next statement later, again in the book, I won't share on it today because I probably have to mentally prepare myself to share it. That part, the next part, where I call it putting the nails in the coffin part of the story. But I'm okay with not getting along with people. I mean, the old Andy probably still would have struggled with that side of things. But still, even at 32, when I did want people to like me. And
I think the weird dynamic between that is as humans, we are naturally tuned to connect with people.
100%.
And to say you're okay not to, how did you word it? You're okay not to,
for people not to like me,
not to like you. That's a powerful
I'm all right
statement.
if people don't get along with me, but I'm not okay with being viciously, attacked on a daily basis. Emotionally, gaslighting is probably the best thing. Of course, I want people to like me. I'm not saying that. I think we all seek it. I think moving to Australia, if I look deep into it, moving to Australia, if I was trying to put my perspective, let's say I was working back in England and an Irish or an Australian came to work and they were over trying, I probably wouldn't have understood it at the time. But now I've moved to the side of the world and I'm seeking some sort of connection. I probably subconsciously forgot that these people that I'm trying to seek to be friends with all have a life at their home, right? They grew up here. They have their friends and family outside of school. They don't necessarily need to come to work to make deeper level friends, if you know what I mean. They don't need to be hanging out with me. But from my perspective, my end, I'm just trying to connect on a level, on the positivity on a daily basis at work. I don't necessarily need to hang out at night. Don't get me wrong, if they invited me moving from the side of the world, I probably would have done because I didn't, we didn't have friends initially. So you, in a way, I suppose you probably over try. You're coming from the other side of the world, you've changed your whole life, you've left everything behind. We've made the decision now, so we have to kind of like it and lump it. But when you're doing it in the thick of it, it is hard, right? It's not easy. And you are seeking friendship, whether it's people at work. But I just wanted a positive day. When it boils down to it, I just want to get along with these people.
I don't know what you're talking about because we talked about it privately. And, that's something that maybe we can explore in another podcast and I can ask you the questions and see if that's something that works. Or if people watching this, listening this, have any questions or they want to know about something, comment, let us know. And that's something we can talk about and, share our ideas on. So it's great to engage with our listeners, our viewers. Because we're here for you.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, and nurturing leadership and leading our own way. It could be an episode for other people. I'm happy to talk about it. I really, really am. I've been a very open book with close friends, and even just people on the dog park would have. I would open up. And you know, some people connect to it and some people don't, because they might not have necessarily experienced anything like that themselves, which is fine too. They could have experienced in a different way, whether it's family or close friends or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Awesome.
do you have to take your little man Theo to football soon, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's playing this morning.
Good. Well, I think that's probably, you know, we've covered the book again. We'll bring up the book, I'm sure, again some other time, because it's meaningful. And I know you've done another book, a couple of books since ours. But I'll put your details in the show notes as well. If people want to make contact with Mike regarding the programs and the books and want to follow, I'll put his details in the show notes as well. We should get together and do another episode in a few weeks' time, because people are probably going to get sick of my empathy mirror neurons episode that was out last week. Last week's episode was mirror neurons, but this is going to replace. Oh, I've just lost you. Hold on a second. This is going to replace the episode for nurturing leadership. Also, I'm going to do a double episode of leading our own way in nurturing leadership. But the next episode on nurturing leadership, we're going to get my notes up here. So after this week's episode of Mike and myself, let's quickly look at the profile. We're going to go with, it's getting further and further down now because I keep posting. But after the mirror neurons episode of last week, we're going to go with, before the victim series starts, we're going to go on to change of management. So how neuroscience offers insights into how the brain responds to change. You know, something people don't think about. They accept change, or they or new leaders come into the workplace and just make changes willy-nilly to fit their needs and set their stance on things. But I'm going to look at how effective leaders use the knowledge to implement change and change strategies that minimize resistance and also facilitate adaptation. So that's the next episode. And then the one after that is effective communication, a very simple one. But yeah, the next couple of weeks, and then we will look at the victim series, which I think we should probably get on together. Mike doesn't know I'm doing this, but maybe that's something we should do a little bit more on and have a conversation about and engage over that topic. So, for example, Mike, if you're willing to, putting you on the spot now, but I don't care. So in the victim series, I went through things like stress, anxiety, isolated and withdrawn, depression, low self-esteem, and loss of motivation. The first one part one was about bullying in the workplace and stress, the effects of stress of that. Maybe we should get together and have a topic around it and have a discussion. People seem to engage in our discussions more than me just talking. Have a think about it, Mike.
We're very. It's on the list.
Excellent. All right, Mike, thank you for joining us on a special episode of Nurturing Leadership / bonus episode for Leading Our Own Way, because very soon, in the next week or two, I will be doing a 7-day countdown to the first ever guest of Leading Our Own Way, Mr. James. I'm really excited about that.
Yes.
I don't want to tell people might already know, but I'm not going to mention it just in case people have not clicked. But he has a special job and he changed his whole life to do it. And it is absolutely fascinating. And not just that, the things he went through in order to make that decision just will blow everybody's mind. It was such and there's things I did on that episode that I didn't even know about Jake, and I've known Jake for 20 years, and it brought tears to my eyes. And he's just it's going to be, I can't wait to get it out there. But I'm being patient because I'm waiting for my trailer and I'm waiting for some audio music to introduce it with. I know it sounds pathetic, but I just need those little bits, and then I'm going to do it. But everybody tune in to Leading Our Own Way. I know I'm going to watch it, even though I made it, and I know Mike's going to tune in to watch it. So let's make sure everybody else subscribes to the YouTube channel, Spotify.
Right, watch, share.
Absolutely, it's yeah. So we're on, for those who don't know, YouTube and Spotify. You can watch it. Spotify, you can also do the audio, and Apple Podcasts is just audio, and we're on all of them. So please follow us on all the platforms. But until next time, from Mike and I, Nurturing Leadership, Leading Our Own Way. Have a great week, everybody, and stay inspired.
Nice.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.